check, test. 1, 2. Hello, hello. Do we have an audio mic? Yes, we do. Awesome. Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody had a great week. I did. So far, could it have been better? Yeah, but we had some pretty nice weather around here. And, it's all relative. It's raining right now, at least it was. Oh, it looks like it quit raining finally. But we've lost all our snow, which is a good thing. I started cleaning up my ugly backyard. I got these big blue spruces. And the squirrels love to chew these little itty bitty pieces of branch out. And they fall all over the yard. And I raked up 4 wheelbarrows full yesterday. I usually drag my heels here a little bit. Of course, this is RV question and answer period. And if you have a question, be sure and just drop it over in the chat window. Also, leave a comment about where you're watching from tonight. That's always good to know. We got Judy in from Alabama, where it's wet. Tom Downey's in, as is Tim Myers. And, a few more people are coming in. Roundtown Scouter in Carlsbad, back from San Antonio already. Wow, you didn't stay there very long. But I know how that goes. I'm a little blue tonight, aren't I? Do we need a little... Oh, I know what the matter. I've left one of my lights off. Just a minute. There we go. That should help. Yep, it does. Okay. So, yeah. I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit tonight, and I want to get some feedback from y'all about, do you guys have CBs or some other type of communication device that you use, like when you're traveling? I had a CB, and I had a nice one. It has quit working. I'm going to pull it out and take a look at it on the bench here in the next week or so and see if I can get it working again. But the nice thing about it is it had the automatic weather radio. And I had it hooked up to my house batteries, okay, so not my chassis batteries, but my house batteries. And it automatically would kick on the weather radio if there was nasty weather coming. So, how's the audio tonight? Let me just double check here. Okay, it seems like it's all right. I might take that out just a little bit so it's not quite so blasting. Let's see. Looks like Chris Hauser's in from Moorhaven, Florida. Hi, Chris. Randy's in. Hey, buddy. Tom Downey says he got his spring plowing done today, getting the garden ready. Yeah, I tried to do a garden last year, but I was gone all summer, so my garden didn't go anywhere. I got a few tomatoes. Thankfully, my good friend Chris, who was taking care of my house and bringing in the mail the whole time I was gone, she watered my tomatoes. I had them in containers. And so I guess... And then she got to pick tomatoes all summer till I got home, because I started them really early, and I usually do. So I usually have fresh tomatoes, cherry tomatoes mostly. Those are the ones that I really like. Usually by the middle of July, I start to pick cherry tomatoes. In fact, I've got my tomatoes started already in the kitchen. Let's see, Randy. Okay, Randy's in, and Kex Racer. Hi, how's it going? Kex Racer is working on, he got his roof on this week on his camper, and I don't know if you saw my question, but what size rivets were you using? How long were those? And then what size staples did you use? Gauge in length. Just curious. I have a staple gun already, and I wanted to, but I don't. I'm completely out of staples, and so I was going to go pick some up. But I thought I'd ask you what you use because it looked like they did a really good job. And then was that a crown stapler you used, or was it one of those little narrow? What do they call those ones that are narrow? Anyway, question for KX Racer there on his rig. Talking about CBs tonight a little bit, or at least radios, handheld GMRS. I've got a set of handhelds. Well, here's one of them. I can't find the other one. These are the Motorola GMRS, the T5420. These are great little walkie-talkies. They range is about 2 miles on these, so they're not too bad. And then, yeah, I liked having the CB. I used to just turn it on when I was driving, obviously, and listen to the trucker chatter on channel 19. That was always handy because a lot of the times you'll get a heads up of something going on the road ahead of you. And, a couple times the CB saved me from getting stuck in a lane that was closing. And as everybody knows, if you drive a big rig and you're out there on the road, if you drive any kind of an RV, as soon as, lanes start to close like that, it can be almost impossible that people won't let you over. And so it was always nice to have that advance warning. And then, of course, if you're caravanning, that mic seems a little hot still. I'm going to turn that down just a bit more, folks. If you're caravanning, then it's always nice to be able to communicate with the folks you're running down the road with. But, yeah, just a curiosity question for anybody that, has an RV that may travel around in it. Do you use a CB? And if you do, throw a comment over in the chat window. Of course, any RV-related comment, question can go over there as well. Yeah, you can ask any question. I try to keep it RV-related. The last few minutes, we kind of loosen up the reins and maybe get off track a little bit, but I tend to try to stay pretty well RV-related. We'll come back to the CB here in just a minute. Let's see. It looks like Gary D's going to brag about the fact that they've been picking tomatoes for 2 weeks. But earlier in the chat, he said it was 86 degrees today, too. So, 86, that's about right. And by the way, when I traveled around, I had a 5-gallon bucket, and I even grew cherry tomatoes in a 5-gallon bucket. When I guess I'd pack a cherry tomato around, they would last about 10 months or so before they'd finally just get so tired that they wouldn't do anything anymore. But yeah, that was another trick that I used to do, is just carry around a 5-gallon bucket with a cherry tomato in it. It was always nice to have a few tomatoes to throw on your salad. EJ Weiss, hi, great to have you here, EJ. John Roth, incredibly useful information I put out here. Thank you, John. I am so happy to get great feedback like that. Tim Myers, CB language will keep you awake. Yeah, sometimes they do get a little potty-mouthed. Particularly if they get cut off or, stuff like that. But, yeah, sometimes they can get nasty out there. Let's see. KX Racer, he was answering my question about the rivets. 1/8 by 1/8. Okay. Staples were 18 gauge crown, quarter wide, 1 inch long, galvanized on the exposed areas. I also have stainless steel staples. Okay, cool. I was thinking I was going to pick up stainless steel staples when I pick them up. So, Cubby Butler, who is a over-the-road trucker, he says he doesn't drive without one. Saved many times. Yeah, they're pretty valuable, I think. I was a child of the 70s, and so I had a base station, CB base station. I had a portable, one in my car. We used to have a lot of fun in the 70s playing with the CBs. I was in the CB club. We used to, they don't do this anymore, but on the holiday weekends, Labor Day, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, things like that, we'd go out to the rest area out in Hell's Half Acre, which is a spot between Idaho Falls and Blackfoot on I-15. There's a rest area out there in a lava flow. And we would go out there and serve coffee and donuts, pastries, stuff like that to the travelers. Usually somebody would drag a trailer out there. We'd set up a trailer and, have coffee and stuff and be there 24 hours a day, for the entire holiday. And so there was a lot of camaraderie that we used to have, with the CB'ers. And then we used to do the Fox and Hound all the time, where somebody would go out and hide. And then you would use your CB to track them down. My buddy Mark had a directional antenna, and that was really handy when you were playing Fox and Hound to track somebody down. Okay, let's see. Tom says they do not have a CB. Okay. Lola, hi. Just one more thing to buy. Yeah, fortunately they're not horribly expensive, and they probably are a bit of a luxury. But yeah, I think Cubby's right. I feel like Cubby does, that, having that look ahead. And then sometimes when you're just really bored, just throw out a break and see who's out there. I chatted with a guy driving a Lucas Oil semi across 2/3 of Illinois. Oh gosh, it's been a few years ago. But yeah, I had a really nice chat with the 30-plus year driver driving the Lucas for Lucas Oils, and yeah, he was a super nice guy. We had a right good chat. Let's see. Bruce Brunham. Hi, Bruce. He says, where did I have my CB antenna mounted? I had it mounted on the front. I might be able to show it to you here. I had it mounted on the front. I guess it would be like the post of, let's see. Well, you can almost see it in that picture. Let's see if I can get a better. I'm not able to find one, but you can kind of see the mount. Let me see here. I want to do this. I think that's what I want. Nope. That one's not working. How about that one? There we go. So if you look right here, can you see my cursor? Yeah, you can. So if you look right there, that's the CB antenna right there. And then I had the CB mounted on the, there was a, I don't know if I have an inside shot or not that I can show you, but I had the CB mounted right there, at my foot, and the mic just hung up here onto the dash. I might have a picture of that too. That was my Class A. That's rusty. Let's see if I have an inside shot here that I can grab for you real quick. I have so much stuff. Let's see. Do I have an inside picture? Oh, yes, I do. Let's see. That would be here. And there. Oh, I can't quite see it. Well, I'll share this one with you, and I can kind of give you a general idea about where it was. So, this is when I was doing my floors, and so I was taking some pictures. This is way before I started doing YouTube. I actually did a video of this floor install and put it on my channel. A fellow, well, he had a Mountain Air. It was a fellow that I was parked next to in Golden, Colorado in 2013, and we were talking about rigs and stuff like that, and he wanted to do his, and so I did a quick video for him. But that's the long way to say that this is just a console right here that has like the transmission shifter and a bunch of stuff in it. And then right up in front of that, if you can kind of see right up here ahead of that seat pedestal, That is where I had the CB mounted, was on this console, this sidebar console here. And it worked out really well. I was really happy with that arrangement. I don't know if I have a better picture of it or not. I'll take a real quick look here. We'll jump back over here to the chat and see. Judy Kimbrough says she has a portable one that she can plug into 12 volts if needed. That's a good solution too. Yeah, it's just, like I say, when you're caravanning, I think they're super handy. Just a reminder, if you have an RV-related question, be sure and throw it over there in the chat window. Or you can submit them in advance to trbolin@gmail.com. That's trbolin@gmail.com. And that'll give me a chance to research it. And sometimes I will take your questions and turn it into a, expose, if you will. I don't know. We'll talk about it in depth if it's a complicated question. I've got a couple of really interesting articles that I'm working on right now. My process kind of goes like this. I'll end up writing. I'll share my screen again here for you so you can kind of see. Ignore that noisy noise there for a minute. So what I'm doing right here, what you're seeing here in front of me, it should change here in a second, is I'll usually write the article first. Now, this is the raw text that I'm going to be posting on my website. And this will act as a script for the video. And then as I work through it, I've actually worked through this mostly. You can see it's about 3,700 words right now. That's about 20 minutes worth of content. And as I work through it, I'll start working on graphics. So you can see here I'm talking about the ampacity and wire. And so I love this chart from Blue Sea Systems. That's probably the best chart out there as far as I'm concerned. And then I work on other graphics like this. So what I'm doing here is explaining how a shunt works. And we'll take just a minute and we'll talk about what a shunt does. When you're wanting to measure the true state of charge of your batteries, there's only really two ways that you can do it reliably. The first way is to fully charge the battery, then disconnect it and measure the voltage then. Well, that's completely and totally impractical in an RV. You don't want to have to disconnect the battery from the RV every time you want to measure the state of charge or how much charge there is in the battery. And so we install these things called shunts. And what a shunt does is it just measures all the electrons going to and from the battery. And so the way a shunt works is, if you look here on my screen right here, a shunt is just a huge resistor. In this case, this is 1 mega ohm. And what a shunt does is it just passes all the current through the shunt, but because of the resistor here, 1 mega ohm, which is really very, very little resistance, there's a voltage change from this side to this side. Oops, I didn't mean to stop that. Keep running. As the voltage changes, you can calculate. In this particular case, I'm showing that we're drawing power from the batteries because you see our amps right here is negative. And it's just a really simple formula to calculate how many amps you're getting. That's Ohm's law, right? And so this is volts over resistance equals amps. V over R equals A. So here's the equation for it. And so now this will be a part of the graphic that goes into the video that I'm working on. That video should be out. Oh, I suspect I got a couple weeks of work yet to do on it before it's ready to go. But so that's a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how I put together and get content ready for videos. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll come back over here to the chat window and take a look and see. Let's see. John Roth. Excuse me. John Roth has a question. What can I do about puddling on my roof? Roof won't leak in a light rain. You mean roof won't drain in a light rain? There's not a lot you can do about puddling on your roof other than to make sure your rig is level. Roofs are, well, RV roofs should be bowed a little bit, okay? So they should all have a natural bit of bow to them. And that helps, get that water drained off. But inevitably, there's going to be dips and there's going to be, age that works into this the sheathing that's underneath that roof. And so, yeah, it's going to end up puddling in a few spots. If it's in the middle and there's no seams nearby, it's probably nothing to worry about. If it's puddling and it's puddling on a seam, okay, so what I mean by a seam is like on the edges where there's seams or around any kind of vents or penetrations that come through the roof. If it's puddling and the water is sitting on that seam, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just beef up that lap sealant on those seams. You want to do it when it's dry, of course, so make sure it's not raining. Get up there and scrub those seams off really good, and then just get yourself from some Dicor lap sealant. It's a tube, it's like caulking, and just touch up those seals, and that way you'll be sure that water isn't working its way down through the lap sealant or the seals that are there. But if it's just puddling in the roof, it probably shouldn't be too much of a problem. I hope that helps. Kex Racer says, I had to order my stainless steel staples online. They were expensive, yes. Oh, you bought them from Menards. Yeah, I haven't looked for them yet. But yeah, I was probably going to go to, I'd probably check with Amazon first. And then I think actually, I was at Home Depot. In fact, Tom Downey and I were chatting before the stream started in the chat window. I was at Home Depot this weekend, and 2x4s were $8 a piece. How can you afford to buy a house or build a house like that? It's no wonder houses are $400,000. Anyway, enough editorializing. Eric Myers, you're late. That's okay. Tim Myers, he said he had a T-Berry Model T base station. Wow, T-Berries. I haven't heard of those for a long time. I had a Realistic base station for a long time. And then I had a cooked Hammerlin. What I mean by cooked, back in the day on the Citizens Band, you were only legally allowed to operate, I believe it was 4 watts. I don't remember. Does anybody remember? It wasn't a lot. And then a lot of us would throw on a 100 amp linear or 100 watt linear amplifier and pump up the volume, and we'd shoot skip, right? And what skip is you're talking around the world because the signal's bouncing off the ionosphere. CB radio is at 11 meters, 24 megahertz, I think, if memory serves. I haven't thought about that stuff for a long time. But fun stuff. Okay, John Roth says, we're speaking about his puddling rain. Heavy rain finds its way in once it puddles in rear luggage rack area. Okay, so yeah, you probably want to go around and do up all your seals on your roof. So all of your seams. So imagine in the luggage rack area, there's probably some little feet that are mounted to the roof. Clean those up really good and then seal them with lap sealant. Do that with all the seams around it. Seal them up with lap sealant. That should help a lot to keep that water out. And you want to keep that water out because water is extremely damaging to RVs. Really, really damaging. Oh, Tom said he had a single sidebander SSB for years. Yeah, I had my cooked Hammerlin was a single sideband. My normal radio in the car and stuff wasn't. Sideband is where you got all the good skip anyway, right? Yeah, Tim Meyer says you could talk very long distances with SSB. Yes, absolutely. Gary D, say, did I come up with anything good on Garmin or Google Maps? Or that Garmin, the information you sent me on the Garmin's looks really interesting. I like the campground thing. But I didn't like the price. Now, my strategy was, and you may have heard me talk about this before, but now we're talking about navigation apps right now. And what I used was flawed. Okay, it wasn't perfect. It worked for me. So I took my tablet, wherever it was, wherever it is, and I probably have a picture of this. Yeah, I do. Probably, I think maybe one right here. Nope. Oh. But hey, that brings me back to here. I'll show you this real quick. Just there's the CB right there. If you look right down in there, there's a picture of the CB. All right. So anyway, let me go run over here and see. I might have that handy. Anyway. What I would do is I would, usually the night before I was going to go somewhere, I would sit down on my desktop here and I would go through my route and look for any kind of obstructions or anything like that. Now, the downfall of this method was it didn't tell you about bridges with weight restrictions on it. It didn't tell you about low overpasses. I got a good story about low overpasses. I should write that down so I don't forget. And those sorts of things. But what I would do is I would just sit down and I would review my route. And a lot of times what I was doing when I was reviewing my route is I was looking for places to stop. If it wasn't on an interstate, say if it was on a state highway, 2-lane, 4-lane type highway, I would be looking for a spot every 100 miles or so to get out and take a quick rest. So if I wasn't on an interstate where you could hit a stop, rest area, then that's the way I would do it. And so then I would just take and load that up to my tablet. And once I had it onto my tablet, then I could just, I'm looking and speaking at the same time. That never works out well. Let's see, probably not going to be able to come up with one. But anyway, so I had that tablet, and what I did was I took an old tablet case I had, and I cut it up, and I found this old dash mount widget thing for probably a GPS or something like that. I found it at the Goodwill. And so I just cobbled together this tablet holder that would just sit right here, right down here in front of me, okay? And give me my turn-by-turn directions right there on my full-size tablet. And that really worked well for me. Let's go back over here to the comments. So anyway, speaking about that, the Garmin's were kind of expensive. The Google Maps I just got really used to using. And so that's kind of what I ended up doing most of the time. Mostly because I didn't want to spend $300 to $700 or more on a Garmin GPS. I think they're great pieces of equipment, and if it's not that I couldn't afford it, okay, but it's just that I found a way that worked for me, again with some limitations, and I totally recognize that. And I have two stories about the limitations of using Google Maps in a large RV. The first one was in Kentucky. In fact, both of them happened in Kentucky. And both of them happened when I was on the Bourbon Trail. The Bourbon Trail is a route, or Kentucky, Tennessee, they make a lot of bourbon. And so there's actually a tour, from town to town. It's not guided or anything. I mean, you have to go find your own, you find the distilleries, and then you can go do the tours of the distilleries. But there was towns, all along in Kentucky, typically small state highways. But I got into this one little town in Kentucky, and I don't remember where it was, what the name of the town was. But my Google Maps kept taking me right back to the same 12-foot overpass. And at the time, my rig was about 13 feet. I was too tall. I would have taken the air conditioners right off the top of the RV. And so I would try to reroute and go out and around, and I would inevitably, that thing would take me right back to that overpass. I finally just pulled over on the side of the street. I'm right in the middle of town, but of course there was room for me to stop. And so I called the sheriff's office. And I didn't call 911. I called the, regular service number. I said, listen, I'm stuck down here. And the dispatcher, bless her heart, got me around that. She says, okay, where are you at? And I told her. And she says, okay, drive here, blah, 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 blah. And she drove me right around that, got me down and around that route, and away I was going. Okay, that's all well and good. Whew. Learned my lesson, I thought. So we go to the Maker's Mark distillery, which is out in the middle of the country in Kentucky there. And, the road out, no big deal. But we were routing towards, I think we were headed towards probably Ohio. Yeah. Anyway, I ended up on it was paved, but just wide enough for my RV, 8 feet. If anybody would have been coming the other direction, they'd had to run off the road. Bardstown, that's a good one. Thanks, Eric. Anyway, and I had to drive about 7 miles on a road with no center line, no fog lines, in my Class A, towing my VW Jetta on its tow dolly at the time. And that's when I learned to go back and check my routes. Some lessons are hard learned. Some people are hard-headed, and some lessons are hard learned. So Google Maps on your phone or a tablet has its limitations. The Garmin's, the Rand McNally's, there are several other out there, GPS's, all very high quality. But they have, and they have the trucker ones, that keep the trucks out of trouble, low overpasses, limited weight limit bridges, teeny tiny roads. Again, I just erred on the side of being frugal, not cheap, frugal. Gary D says battery charging is a good subject. Yeah, we're talking about that. Well, I'm not going to reveal what the whole thing is about, but yeah, it's. I think it's going to be an interesting video. In fact, I've learned a lot about it. It's about this time that I ask if you enjoy this video, give me that thumbs up. I always appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Ring the notification bell. Lots of great videos still to come. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by visiting my Amazon store. There's a link in the description below. Remember, as an Amazon affiliate, I get a teeny tiny commission, but you pay the same price, and every little bit helps. I use my Amazon commissions to keep my camera gear up to date. It costs a fair amount of money to buy these cameras. The GoPros that I'm running, they were about $250. And they weren't, they're not the latest, greatest ones either, by the way. I bought, 2 models back, mostly because they do what I want to do. Now that I'm doing, my current videos are all in 4K. So, got a question. Oh, Breaker19, any RV'ers out there? Hi, Two Feathers. So nice to see you here tonight. Paul Vercake? Cack? Hi, Paul. Great to have you here. He says, what kind of stranded wire would I buy if I wanted to run a new receptacle in your slider? Well, first off, stranded is not necessary. You can use typical Romex. If you want to use stranded, that's just fine. You would get, you could use THHN wire. That's stranded wire. It's the same kind you would get at Home Depot. If you're going to do a 15 amp outlet, you want to go with at least 14 gauge wire. If you're going to go to a 20 gauge amp outlet, you want to use 12 gauge wire. So I'm assuming that you're thinking you need to use stranded because it flexes as it comes in and out. It's going to be flexing as it comes in and out. And yeah, that's absolutely what you need to do is use the stranded there. But once you get past the slide, you could go back to Romex, type wire. But yeah, 12 gauge THHN. That's your typical electrician house wire that you can get from Home Depot, Menards, any of your home improvement centers where you can get wire, or you can get it on Amazon and support the channel. But I would say that I wouldn't worry about going to Amazon. Go to Home Depot and buy what you need. Because, and you're going to spend, for 12 gauge wire, you're probably going to be into it for 15, 18 cents a foot, something like that, since you're only buying small quantities. But that's what I would use. I would also recommend that you get some loom, some wire looming, and put the wires in a loom. You don't want them hanging loose. Hang on. This stuff, right? Protective wrap. You stick the wires in here. They don't get chafed. It keeps them all nice and neat. And yeah, I highly recommend that you use that. I just got that the other day for a project I've been going to work on. Hope that helps, Paul. Tim Meyer says, yes, 4 watts was the maximum on the old Citizens band. Now it's unlicensed. It's just it's a free-for-all out there now. Randy Waller says he knows all about lumber prices. He can be starting to build in a couple months. Yeah, he says his windows are 28 weeks out. I've heard that. I waited 13 weeks to get my garage door. He says his hole is dug. The foundation's going in next week. That is awesome. Tom, I don't know what it is, but I am not getting your email. Tom asked me, did I see my tow bar set up? And I don't know what it is, but I am not getting your email when you send it. And I've checked the spam. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. And I will say this. If you email me, you can expect an answer usually within 24 hours. Most of the time, it'll be same day. Because I do process my email regularly. I get on and process YouTube comments once a day, usually in the morning, and occasionally in the evening one time, but not very often. So that's kind of how you can expect things to fall out if you've emailed me. I pay attention to my spam and that. I have not seen an email from you, Tom. In fact, I am looking right now again, assuming that it comes from something like Tom. I mean, I get emails from Tim. Tim Myers and I have emailed back and forth a fair amount. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything from you, Tom. So I don't know if it's, carbon unit failure on my part or your part. All right. Food Porn Chef. Hey! He asks, can I explain the difference ball grease for the hitch and other lubes for the slides and other seals and also dry graphite, please? Okay, sure. The grease that you would use, like on, and maybe Cubby can help us with this, because Cubby drives a truck. On a lot of fifth wheels on semis, they use grease between the plates. And I think that grease can really be, any kind of grease. It's just lubrication, right? So I don't know that it has to be special. Grease when you're greasing like the ball on the trailer. I will say that I don't know if I would grease the ball on my trailer. I would probably maybe hit it with dry lube, WD-40. Greasing that ball is going to be a mess, and it's really not necessary. I would just take in WD-40 the actual ball, and then it might not be a bad idea to put a little bit of grease up inside the hitch. But I think you'd probably want to avoid it there too, because all it's going to do is pick up dirt and get in there and clog things up and make that thing not work real well. And I think a good shot of silicone or WD-40 is what you want to use on like a trailer ball and stuff like that. For your slides, this varies. On my RV, on the Dutch Star, they say you don't need to oil or lube the slides. I use silicone. On the seals, on any kind of seals, any kind of rubber, you do not want to use WD-40 on your rubber seals. Okay? WD-40 has naphtha and several other petroleum products in it that is harmful to those seals. It'll cause those seals to start to degrade. So silicone, those seals have they have a lot of silicone in that rubber. The silicone keeps it supple and soft and movable. And so if you're going to be taking care of forgot to change cameras here. No, I guess I'm all right. If you're doing any of your slide seals, you could use silicone. Use the silicone in your windows. So, like how your window slides usually have a gasket in them. Clean all those up with silicone. Clean and lube all your door gaskets, entry door gaskets with silicone. And they'll last forever. I just published a video here a couple weeks ago on spring startup, dewinterization, or, getting your camper ready for spring after it's set all winter. You might want to check that out on my channel, because I go into a little bit more detail on some of the maintenance stuff. As far as graphite's pretty specialized. It used to be used a lot, back in, when I was a kid. And Tom was an old man still. Just kidding. Oh yeah, and that I just had to okay a comment from him. A lot of the semis they use these Teflon pads now that mount right on the fifth wheel, so they don't have to grease them anymore, because the Teflon acts as the slide. Mostly because the grease attracts grit and grime and nastiness. Okay, back to graphite. Graphite is pretty specialized. And right now, I can't think of one thing on an RV that I would use graphite in. I can't think of anything that I would use graphite in. All graphite is ground up pencil lead, right? That's what, pencils are made of, graphite. So, and I'm trying to remember, it seems like we used to use graphite in key locks, to lube key locks, back before we had things like WD-40 or spray lubes. when we didn't want to use, like, back in the old days, we used to use an oil can, right? And put a couple drops of oil on the hinges and stuff like that of cars. I remember, I was going to dig this picture up. I forgot. But I'll get that next week. Anyway, that all being said, the graphite, we used to use it like in key locks and things like that, where today you would use WD-40. I hope that helps. Tim Myers asks, anyone else using the Blue Fire adapter and app? I think we're talking about like Silverleaf is the one I know. But what it is that it is a widget that you plug into your chassis, and then it tells you everything you want to know about your engine. I looked at the Silverleaf many years ago. I thought about maybe getting a Silverleaf because I thought it'd be cool, because it tells you things that you don't get on the dash. Like turbo temps and boost pressures and everything that the computer on the truck or your computer in your rig is monitoring. It gives you a display of, and so I thought it would be really handy. I never did pull the trigger on the Silverleaf. I thought they were pretty expensive, but that's a good question. KX Racer 704 asks, for broken windows in 70s style camper, what do you recommend replacing panes? Glass, tempered, safety glass, polycarbonate. I would recommend safety glass or tempered. Tempered is safety glass, so they're pretty much the same. Safety glass is going to be expensive, but they call it safety glass for a reason. I think actually, that your new rigs, new campers, fifth wheels, anything with a window in it, all has to be safety glass, tempered. Any vehicle that goes down the road, I think it all has to be tempered or safety glass. So I would use safety glass, and you should be able to find it, for that. You might end up going to like a glass shop and seeing if they can cut the pane for you, because safety glass, I believe, you don't cut it like regular glass. Like regular glass, you have a glass cutter, you strike it across there, it scores it, you pop it, and but I don't know if you could do that with safety glass because of the coating on it. Tom Downey, he simply uses the big book for campgrounds. Yeah. Gary D says his Garmin lets him enter his rig information to help him avoid things. Yeah, like width, length, height, weight, those sorts of things. Yeah, that's a good system. Tom Downey says his iPad has roads maps installed with a GPS included. We can see as the map progresses. Yeah, and that's what Google Maps does for me. I have an Android. I'm an Android guy, right? So I have Android equipment. It's just a personal preference. Nothing wrong with Apple at all. Okay, Bardstown. Yeah, that was where I think the Barton Distillery was in Bardstown. I really liked Barton. That was a good one. They had some really good bourbon. Eric Myers. Drove my car on dolly off a cliff using iPhone map. Yikes. Oh, okay, it was a gully. That's funny, Eric. Roundtown Scouter. Is the wiring going to move out with the slide? May need to use a coiled cable. In my slide, they use a little, well, it's a cable bar is what it is, and it holds the cables fixed, but it has a hinge in the middle. We used to use them all the time when I built server rooms in racks. So it would keep the cables all nice and neat and when they moved in and out. But they did use flexible stranded wire for that. Another thing you could use, now that I've just thought about it, is you could probably use MC, metallic cable. And you could buy that with 3 conductors in the gauges that you might want. 12 or 14 gauge. And, but I don't know, now that I think about it, you want to use stranded for sure, because that thing moving in and out is going to work those wires, and they're going to break. And you don't want to use solid wires in anything that flexes. You always want to have stranded cable in any kind of, any kind of cable like this. Okay, they're always going to be stranded, never solid. Solid wiring is only good for static installations, period. Oh, and Tom says there are lube pads made for trailer balls. Okay, interesting. How do you adjust for the size, though? Eric Myers, UHMW. Yes, UHMW is another one of the wire codes that you can use. It's not quite as readily available as THHN, but you can get UHMW from your auto parts stores. But it's going to be a lot more expensive. KX Racer, do you use graphite in key locks? You can, yes. And in fact, that's what we used to use, like I was saying. I may be behind on comments, too. Silverleaf gets a thumbs up from Roundtown Scouter. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Eric Myers, slick plate. Yes, slick plate. Thank you. Tim Myers, when I have some time, I will send you a picture of my custom screen for the Bluefire. Pretty handy with digital most of the readouts. Cool. Eric Myers says safety glass has to be cut before it becomes safety glass. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, you would want to use safety glass, I would think. KX Racer. Wow, this hour has flown by. All right. Anything else that we could chat about tonight? Any other questions or comments? Throw them over in the chat window. Don't forget to give me that thumbs up. Always appreciate those. If you subscribe, if you're not subscribed, ring the notification bell. Do all that kind of fun stuff. We'll be back next week at 7 p.m. And the weather's improving, so we're probably going to get to see some more content on the Truck Camper. Plus, our friend Richard isn't here tonight. Morning for him. But I've started to get a few things pulled together to get working on Rusty for him. Rusty is my Class A that I sold to Rich, who will be coming from Germany at the end of April to pick it up. Take it home with him. Gary D. Tire rated speed. Oh, look at that. Okay, you can even put in the tire rated speed. That's interesting in his Garmin GPS. Tom Downey, it's called tempering. Yeah, tempering just makes the glass more flexible, and it also makes it, when it breaks, into not shards, but little tiny squares. They're still sharp, but Chris Hauser asks, is there a downside of using Great Stuff foam to spray around pipes coming into the trailer? No, it actually is a good thing. It will help keep rodents out, but rodents can go through the Great Stuff. The only way I know of around that is before you fill those, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but before you fill those, get yourself some steel wool, coarse grade steel wool, not a lot, just enough, and stuff it up in that hole around the pipe where it goes through. Then hit it with a little bit of Great Stuff. Now, what that steel wool is going to do is it will stop your rodents. It will mouse-proof your rig, basically, is what it does. They might chew through the foam, but they'll get to that steel wool and it'll stop them instantly because that steel wool rips up their mouth. And and be sure and use stainless. Okay, yeah, it costs a little bit more, but use stainless steel wool. Don't waste your money on the stuff that they sell on Amazon called rodent proofing stuff, because all it is stainless steel wool, and they charge you twice what you can get it for at Home Depot. Or you can get regular old stainless steel wool on Amazon, and it's competitive with Home Depot and Lowe's or Menards or any of the other home improvement centers that might be in your area. But yeah, that little bit of steel wool is going to go a long way to keep rodents out. Send an email. Tom, are you asking me to send an email? I don't know your address. Chris Hauser. Okay, we got to him. Randy Waller. I need to do one more from the cockpit on Rusty. Okay, I plan on doing that. I'll be taking him over to get his annual service. Oil, filter, that sort of stuff. I also need to take it to the car wash and get it nice and clean and pretty. Because I need to do touch up some seals on the roof. Just touch up the little bit of the lap sealant is on the list. There's a bunch of stuff on the list. I'm going to be replacing the carpet in the bedroom with hardwood. I got a lot of stuff. I'm going to be refinishing the living room floor. I'm going to be pulling off a couple compartment doors and getting them repaired. Stuff like that. In fact, I'm headed out there. Well, if it's not raining tomorrow, I'll head out tomorrow and pull the compartment doors off. There's nothing in the basement. I've got the batteries out of it. And one of them is the battery door and the other's the water bay door. So there's really nothing in there. I'll just tape some cardboard over them, and you'll be seeing a video on me repairing those here in the very near future. Eric Myers. Right, Tom had a senior moment. You're welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining and your great questions tonight. Food Porn Chef, can I explain about ball grease and lube and the different... You already asked that, Food Porn Chef. I think I did. Oh, silicone, lithium, and graphite lube. What is better for what, and lube for trailer connections? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that you need to oil your ball. That could have a double entendre in it, couldn't it? I don't think that you need to do that if you've got a trailer. An actual trailer connection, if we're talking about the electrical connections, WD-40 is great for lubing those, keeping the sockets cleaned up. You can also get contact cleaner. We've talked about contact cleaner before. I love this stuff. Deoxit D5. This is specifically made to clean contacts. They have contact cleaner you can buy, electrical contact cleaner that's a lot cheaper than this. You can get it from Home Depot, you can get it at Amazon, and if you'd like to get it from Amazon and support the channel, there's a link in the description below. Get that last plug in. Well, and if you want to know, okay, silicone. Okay, just quickly. Dry lubes typically are things like WD-40. There are others out there. There's the WD-40 Specialist and all this stuff. Then there's, I swear by silicone. I have a can of silicone with me. Always had one with me in the rig and the RV. I got a couple in the garage. I use it on a lot of stuff. They both do about the same thing. The difference is WD-40 was WD stood for water displacement, and it was the 40th compound that they invented trying to do water displacement, and that's how it ended up with its name. It has some silicone in it, naphtha. There's several other compounds in there that help displace water. And so, you know, but they're generic dry lubes. They leave a film on the surface, and graphite is like for sliding, so graphite is really greasy, slick, but it's not greasy. So it's like a dry lube. It won't attract grease or it won't attract dirt like grease does. And then lithium is just a different type of grease. Lithium is typically used in food processing, those sorts of things where you need to have a clean grease, one that's easily cleaned up. Yeah, that's, I think, what I could tell you. Two Feathers says, anything that keeps rodents and spiders out works for me. Yeah, the foam will keep the spiders out, and the steel wool will keep the mice from chewing through the foam. Well, it'll stop them from chewing through and getting inside. They'll chew through to the spot where they get to that steel wool, and they'll get stopped in their tracks because it will cut their mouths up. Oh, Food Porn Chef says, it's rusting and been in the desert. Climate storms, I need to get out of the sand. Get out the sand out. Okay. In that particular case, you can fix her quick with an oily rag. That's a lyric from a song. Anybody remember that song? Hot Rod Lincoln, maybe? In that particular case, yeah, a light wipe with some oil, just engine oil, right? A little bit of engine oil, transmission oil on a rag. Just wipe the ball down, and that'll give it a nice protective coating. You could use silicone, but silicone probably won't protect it from the rust. WD-40 won't protect it from the rust. The only way you're going to protect it from the rust is with some kind of a petroleum-based product, and that's why I would say a quick wipe with an oily rag will put a nice protective coating on it and should keep it from rusting. You can also buy covers. Some people use a tennis ball. I've seen that work really well. They just split a tennis ball and slip it right over the ball on the hitch, and that works pretty good too, just to keep the water off of it. But yeah, quick wipe with an oily rag when you park. Lightly oil rag, not heavy, just a real light oil, will help keep that from rusting on you. Tom, no, I don't think I have purposely flagged you as a spammer. I haven't had to flag anybody as a spammer for a long time. So whatever that's worth. Two Feathers says, Google's got you pegged, Tom. Alrighty, it's 8 o'clock. And I think we'll call her good. This hour flew by like they all do. I do have a quick announcement that starting on the first Tuesday in April, I'm going to probably cut down to doing these once a month. I've got a lot of things going on in April. One of the main things is that I'm taking a class that starts at 5:30 on Tuesday nights and ends at 7. And so that kind of stomps onto the live stream. I try to do these at 7 Mountain Time because then it's not midnight on the East Coast, or it's not 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast. So it's tough when you're trying to cover 4 time zones. So 7 o'clock sort of works. But probably for the month of April and probably for the month of May, I may go back to once a month on the live streams. I'll push harder to get more questions submitted in advance. I'll do more research and have a prepared topic for each one. And we'll get together on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., but it'll probably be the first Tuesday of the month. I will know more here in the next couple weeks. I'm kind of juggling some things. Besides doing all of this stuff that I do normally, I also do quite a bit of editing on a contract basis where I'm doing editing for, well, mostly real estate videos. And that gets really busy in the spring. And so I expect that I'm just going to be a man with 16 balls in the air, and stuff's going to be falling on the ground and falling apart. So I'm just trying to hedge my bet here. But with that said, I think we're going to wrap her for tonight. Send reminders. Okay, the way to get a reminder is to, on my channel, next to the subscribe button, there is a little bell icon. And if you click that, it'll give you the option to take and customize it or select all. And if you select all, then you will get a reminder automatically from YouTube 30 minutes before the stream, and then again usually right before the stream. They will send you an email on the 30-minute one, and as a reminder to come and watch. And then I'll set up a. You know what I might do is I might set up a mailing list. Let me look at that you could sign up for to get reminders. I'll look into that, and we'll chat more about it next week. I will be here every Tuesday night until the first and the first Tuesday in April, but then I will be off for until the first Tuesday in May. Oh yeah, Two Feathers says. Two Feathers says tennis ball helps with the banged up shins too. That hurts like a bleep. Yeah, if I don't pull the pins out of my tow bar, man, I can really raise some heck with my legs for sure. Wanda, good night. Thank you so much. Nice to have you here. Tom, thank you. Tim, thank you. Judy, appreciate it. Thanks, KX Racer. Good night, Randy, and good night, all. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, peace. Good night.